Nas dropped the album, man.
A
Welcome
dope album.
everybody. We're welcoming everybody into the room. We talking King's Disease. Nas dropped an
Sure.
album. We weren't expecting that though. I mean, a lot of people were
Oh,
anticipating many of the albums that were coming out in 2020, and I don't think Nas was even on that list. But we're happy to have it,
mm,
man. You
don't
know what
think
I'm
so.
saying?
No, he wasn't on any of our list. I don't think.
Happy Friday. What up, Coop? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to get new music on a Friday always. You know what I'm saying? And when you get new music from Nas, man, shit, we gotta do a DJ horn for that. Nasir is put his hat in the bidding for album of the year. Now you were telling me earlier what King's disease actually means. Can you
Yeah,
break that down for the people?
yeah. Actually, so well, a little just bit more historical context. During the Renaissance time, people who were considered to have weight on them were considered to be wealthy or rich because there was a big disparity between the haves and the have-nots, so to speak. So you having more weight on you was actually of your wealth, and so people, that's where the terminology King's disease actually comes from, and it's essentially just gout, but it comes pretty much from a gluttonous place. When you see those pictures in Europe of those art galleries, and you see like the heavy set woman like with the belly and all that,
Right.
that they're considered to be nobility and they're eating well, and so it's considered to be king's disease or rich man's disease. And it pretty much comes from gluttony, from having access to pretty much all the food and fruits and resources that you want in pretty much, bad batches in the bunch, making you sick, giving you gout and things of that nature. And so that's the historical context of what it actually like means, like literally.
I know when we were speaking offline, I think it was yesterday or before the album dropped, you were breaking down the definition of King's disease and where he was coming from with that. We were really interested to see where Nas was lyrically going to take it on this album, and lyrically, Nas got busy on this album. I think.
He did.
Where the
I mean,
criticisms lie, I think a lot of people, I think, were critical of production, and we'll get to that. But lyrically, what do you, what did you think of Nas's performance on this record, and where do you think it, kind of ranks among some of his other great pieces of work?
that's why my head is down half the time right now, Mike. I'm actually like writing down his whole list of cataloged albums, and I'm trying to figure out where this is like lyrically, because just off the listens that I've had, it's the best thing that he's done in a long time
Oh, that's
lyrically.
saying a lot,
You know,
man.
it is because for the better part of the last 10 years, he's really been more of a song maker than a rhymer and a lyricist per se. You know, like somebody like a Black Thought is still considered to be a lyricist, where Nas is kind of transitioning into more of a song maker in terms of how he's viewed. And this is the first album in a very long time where it's like, yo, like Nas is like
Now, what's
spitting,
your
spitting.
favorite song so far? And I want to ask the people too, what's their favorite song so far? We'll go ahead and put the track list on the screen.
About the same spring, I'm going through the catalog and pulling it up. Uh, Highlights for me, Blue Benz is just like what I like to call like him on some rap shit.
hmm
So I like Blue Benz because I feel like it's not a Nas album if you just don't have Nas on some rap shit, even for a track. And I think Blue Benz is that track. I love what he did on 27 Summers. I mean, usually when you give Nas a track like that, and I'm one of his biggest fans, like usually when you give him a track like that, he fails.
Oh, you know what? I
like
agree
like
with you.
Big
I
Things.
think
You
he
remember
wrote
Big
the beat
Things? You
really
remember Big
well.
Things on I Am?
Yeah, he did that on I Am a few times. You know what? People are putting in some of their
Didn't
favorites. We got All Bad. Shout out to Monty Williams. He said All Bad. Charles Sackett
I'm with
Jr. said Full Circle. Andre
I'm with
Cheshire said Blue Benz. You know what, man? Full Circle was slightly disappointing for me, and I'm not gonna front. And I don't know if it's because Foxy put that little bug out there like Dr. Dre was gonna be on some production, but that beat for me kind of failed. Az kind of carried the load on that record for me. I know it was good to hear Foxy again, and she was talking that stuff. But for me, I think Az was the one that really shined on Full Circle. I think the beat missed the mark, unfortunately. And like I said, I don't know if that's because Foxy put that post out there tagging Dr. Dre. I had different expectations for the record, but I mean, what do you think about Full Circle?
Okay. First of all, I'm with everybody on the fact that I think the highlights of this album right now, for me, just off what I like to call that just a casual listen, like without having to dig too far deeper. Blue Benz, 27 Summers, All Bad, Full Circle, 10 Points, and Spicy are the tracks that immediately for me stick out as the highlights. I know you love Ultra Black.
You didn't love Ultra Black?
I like it. I don't love it. I mean, but I really like it. I enjoy it. I think it's a dope record. It's a good lead off, and it's one of the few times where I feel like it's kind of consistent with the soundscape and the message of a Nas album. Like I told you, his first singles are usually misleading, you know.
Let me get to some of the people's favorites real quick before you finish that thought. What Andre said, Blue Benz. We got Car 85 here, Black King. We got 10 Points and The Cure over here. Another Full Circle. We got Replace Me. I like Replace Me.
So let's hold on, Mike.
Go ahead
for a second.
Get back.
We're gonna get to everybody else. I hear everybody else's comments. So the mark of a great album is when people are arguing about what their favorite song. We've only been online for about 5 minutes. We've almost got the entire track listing, and that's what I want to talk about. This album is sneaky great to me.
Sneaky
great.
I
don't. It's sneaky great. Like, because even when I heard it the first time, usually just off the strength of who they are, when somebody like a Nas or Jay or even an Eminem or a Black Thought or somebody like that comes out, just because of who they are, Mike, I just listen to the album back to back because it's them. And I feel like they deserve that type of attention. Whereas I might listen to a newer artist stuff and be like, okay, I'll wait till I get in the whip. But I listened to this album when it came out last night. And it was probably the first Nas album that I listened to in a long time, where it's like I didn't immediately listen to it again. And I slept on it, and I woke up and I played it again when I woke up. And I was like, nah, like how I felt last night is pretty legit. It's pretty dope and pretty wildly consistent in terms of, like, I'm pulling up this track list. Like, I'm giving you my highlights, Mike, but all these songs are pretty consistent songs. And I'm not saying it's a classic. Like, I'm not saying that by any means, because it doesn't have a classic feel to me. I don't think it's better than Pray for Paris or Alfredo. But after listening to it for 3 times, I've listened to it like kind of 3.5 times. Alfredo and Pray for Paris are the only albums that I've heard here that I think are distinctively, like, not even distinctively, they're better in terms of just like how much I enjoyed them and how I like really just found myself playing it over and over again upon first listen. So I don't think it's better than those 2 albums. But if we're talking album of the year consideration, I would consider something that's one of the 5 to 7 best albums of the year to be album of the year consideration. And so I do consider it that.
All right, well, go through some of your favorite songs. Let's say if somebody asked you how this album was, and what would be the 3 songs that you would tell them to listen to from this album?
Okay, so the Nas song on here, like, Nas always has a song that it's like, it's that Nas record. Like on Stillmatic, the Nas record is what goes around. The Poison record. Like, there's a joint like that on every Nas album. And 10 Points is that joint on this album.
Okay.
So I'm going to highlight 10 Points. That would be the first one. All Bad by Anderson .Paak is just wonderfully, with Anderson .Paak, is just wonderfully put together. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I think that All Bad would definitely be one of the ones that I would pick. I think it's a well put together song. I think it's produced well.
It's like
I think the drums, man, like the live drums with Anderson .Paak, more than likely playing the drums on that, give it a whole different feel.
Okay, so I think I feel the same way you do. It's like it's almost in that Jhené Aiko, Amy Winehouse territory of it being like one of those toxic, like love songs that sounds like ridiculously like dope and feel good, you know?
Right.
And so I go 10 points.
10
All
points.
bad.
All
10
bad.
points, all bad. And I would argue between and this is what I mean, I'm still deciphering. Blue Benz, 27 Summers, or Full Circle would be one of those last three tracks. I just don't know which one I would pick. But we haven't talked about Full Circle yet, but I want to.
Let's talk about Full Circle. I want to talk about Full Circle as well. That was going to be the next thing I was going to ask you about. I kind of gave my piece on Full Circle slightly. What are your thoughts on Full Circle?
I feel like I was pleasantly surprised. This is what I mean. Like, the last time you heard these guys together was really like the La Familia and the Affirmative Action, and that's all we got. Right. I'm smoking this Cuban for Esco tonight, by the way. This is Cuban, like,
burn it up for Esco.
For Esco tonight. Yeah. Pink Suits and Cubans and Big Cabernet for Esco tonight, because it's a great album.
Right.
Right. But I love Full Circle, and you want to know why? Because it totally threw me for a loop with the subject matter and the content and the way the beat fell. But I'm going to tell you something. As soon as that beat dropped, Mike, I said, AZ's about to kill this shit. And
yeah,
he did.
AZ killed it. I think AZ had the best verse on the song.
Thing. He did, and that's one of the best verses on the album. One of the 5 best verses on the album, I would say. And this is one of Nas's best lyrical efforts. But much like on Illmatic, it's like AZ is gifted enough that, you know, because Life's a Bitch is one of the 5 best verses on Illmatic, and that's Nas's best lyrical performance too. So like, recognize who AZ really is, like, you know. But I was pleasantly surprised at the subject matter. I had never heard any of those 3 guys speak about women in relationships in that manner, and I followed all 3 of their careers pretty intently for a long time. Like, I'm a Mega fan. I've always been a core Mega fan.
It was good to see Mega on there. You know, no disrespect to, you know, Nature or whatnot, but, you know, a lot of us kind of originally knew the firm idea is Mega being involved. So it was good to see Mega in the fold.
Yeah, it was good to see Mega. And to hear, and you know, and it was one of those things when I'm listening to the record and it says Full Circle and I'm listening to what they're talking about and how they're talking and how the beat, you know, you don't like the beat, but it's like, I love the beat because that beat complements the subject matter so well. It's like, and so I'm going to get into it. I told you I don't watch interviews much, but like we just talked about behind the scenes, Nas gives interviews so infrequently. I mean, he's worse than Jay at it. And so I watched the Rosenberg in the Ebro interview, and he talked about how G-Code is the one that got Mega and Foxy on the song and made it like some firm shit again, because originally when Nas heard the beat, AZ was working on his album too, and it was just going to be Nas and AZ. So the order of it, how it got laid, is in the order of how the conversations happened too. So Nas reached out to AZ first. AZ was already working on his joint, and Nas even said, I haven't talked to Foxy or Mega in years. So his homie put that in his ear. So the whole firm thing being cracking again actually happened because the homie G-Code said something. And that's from the Nas interview. And so I found that very interesting because when you hear the track, I'm like, that's some Nas and AZ, The Flyest, How You Livin', Life's a Bitch. Like they've got a nice little stack of records now together like that, so I could catch the vibe. But to hear Mega come in and catch the vibe too like that after being separated from them from all this time. And Nas even joked about how like they've been separated. He called Mega and he was like, you know, it's been years. He was like, you know, Mega was like, nigga, I know that's your fault. You know, and Nas was talking about like he grew up with Mega, you know, right. He was talking about how he was in kindergarten with Havoc, like, you know, so he's known these guys his whole life. And so the record title and then Foxy at the end, I mean, it's not her best verse by any means. Her delivery is still for the most part intact, which I thought was her trademark. Her throaty vocals are still somewhat intact.
Yeah.
And it was just good to hear Foxy mostly, though.
It was a reunion.
What did you think about
the
Ether line? Was the I thought that when I heard the Ether line, I was like, is that a slick diss?
I don't know. It's a
okay.
Say the line real quick. Say the line so we're not misquoting anything. Say the line real quick so we're not misquoting anything.
when she's talking about I spit ether or something like that. I'm just saying, it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's an interesting line,
it's, I
especially
mean,
the fact that just yesterday, and not to not to skip around or anything. Just yesterday, there was this whole thing online about the fact that Jay-Z comes out the same day as Nas, or puts out stuff
we need to talk
the
about that.
same day Nas puts stuff out. Because speaking about infrequently, Jay doesn't come out with music every day. Like, he did that in the 90s, but in the 2000s, especially at this point in the 2000s, to actually get a Jay piece of work, whether it's a verse, song, or album, it doesn't happen often. But it seems to always happen anytime Nas
Mike,
puts something out. And we don't, a lot of people were speculating what that was about. I don't know, people jokingly saying that, Nas is
it's
on
not a
Jay's
joke,
mind,
Mike.
whatever. But
Like, I'm
saying
gonna
all
tell you,
before you go in, I was gonna say I don't know if Nas working with Foxy again, how that's viewed, and I don't know if the ether line was anything. I have no idea, but it's interesting.
I'm just asking questions.
I'm just asking questions too. I don't know anything. I'm just I just think it's interesting, with the Foxy Jay relationship, the Foxy Nas relationship, and this fact that and Jay, or Jay and Nas have this competitive thing going on where they release music on the same days.
Not they, he.
I don't know anything. I'm just saying.
I don't even have much to go in about it, Mike. I'm gonna tell you like this. This is how real this shit is and how petty it is. My aunt said Jay needs to stop that. My aunt was like, really? She stays connected and she's plugged and she's like, yo, he needs to stop doing that. Like, they too old for him to be doing that still. Like, that's petty.
Well, I'm gonna say this.
That's almost a 60-year-old woman telling me that, like, yo, like, really, he's still on that. Like, stop that. And so here's what I mean. No. And this is why y'all have lofted Jay up to such, like, not even just you, because you're a Nas fan too, but he's been lofted up to such standards that it's like he does this habitually and he gets away with it. Like, nobody else will get away with this without calling it somewhat of a bitch move.
Daniel, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. He says that beat is dope. Is that dude serious? He's talking about the Full Circle beat. I agree with Daniel. I didn't like the beat either. Yeah, just saying.
I mean, I don't know. And you want to know what's crazy is that, and I just realized this, that's Dr. Dre at the end rapping at Full Circle. So I guess that's what Foxy was talking about. That's Dre at the end of Full Circle rapping.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that.
No, that's true.
Justin says,
I went back and...
Justin says, I don't think it's nothing petty going on. Y'all reaching. I mean, look, people put out music all the time.
There's documentation. This is like the 6th time this has happened, Mike. Nas has only released 13 projects.
Yeah, I think he put out the Unplugged the same day as what Stillmatic. So that was, that was probably intentional because that's what they was going through.
We all know that was intentional.
That was probably.
But it's like how many times is lightning striking the same place? It damn sure don't strike 6 times, Mike.
And the thing about it is Nas albums are planned and it comes across as something else because Jay hit you with the surprise album. Like, it's not like it's on the calendar. One time that Jay did this, and then we're gonna get back to the Nas album, but when 50 Cent he had his album set up, the Curtis album, he had a date for that, and Jay was president of Def Jam. And he moved Kanye's graduation date to the same date as 50 Cent's Curtis album. So this is something that he does, So, it is what it is. And, not that it's any malice. Maybe it's healthy competition, or maybe it's one of those things where it's like, you know what? Since people are listening to new music, this is a perfect time to put out new music.
I love the angst. I love all that.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Like, for me, but it's like you've done this 6 times, and the only reason I bring it up, I didn't have a problem with it until I watched the Nas interview, and he talked about how he said, when I look around, I don't see too many people where I am, and I was thinking to myself, how many rap artists ever have really been where Nas has been, like Jay and Snoop.
I feel like Snoop's there in a different capacity. I think Snoop's more of a
So
personality
is Jay.
than
So is
yeah,
Jay.
I think it's kind of
So is
just
Jay.
Jay, yeah.
So here's
Yeah.
what. No, but it's not Jay because Jay's not just Nas is the only guy of those three guys that's there, and he's really there mostly because of the music, Mike. That's why he's the greatest ever. He's in a
Well,
stratosphere. No, he's in a
Jay's there
stratosphere
because of
with
the
guys
music
where
too.
they're
Let's
no, no,
not
no,
do that.
Mike.
No.
Yes,
Jay's
yes.
there
We are
because
doing
of the
that.
music too.
That's why.
Jay
I'm over
just
here in pink
happens to
suit.
be a really
Hold on,
good
Mike.
businessman too.
Mike, to quote Jay, that's why I'm over here in pink suits trying to look cute because that guy is the GOAT, man. And here's why, because everybody that's in his stratosphere, when you think of them, you think of something else that's attached to them, whether it's good or bad. He's the only guy in that stratosphere where it is attached to his musical legacy. With Jay, it is attached to the business. With Snoop, it's attached to the branding and the image. With Pac and Big, unfortunately, it's attached to the murder. With Rakim, it's attached to the golden era. There's another attachment with all the guys. With Nas, it's like Nas is nice, like that.
I don't think Jay's lyricism and lyrical ability should be just understated because he's such a supreme businessman either. He shouldn't be
No.
punished for that because we know that Jay can get busy. We know Jay, he comes from that era where people were sitting on the block spitting. He comes from that era where he had to battle. He's been involved in the battle. He's ruined people's career on wax. He's done it all. He's had, I think Jay has had more top 10 MCs featured, has rapped with more top 10 MCs than anybody on a record. He's done a record with Kane. He's done a record with Rakim. He's been on a record with Nas. He's been on multiple records with Scarface, Biggie. He's been on
Nas
records
has done
with
records with all those guys too, hasn't he? Nas has done records with all those guys
Nas ain't got a record with Big.
Okay, hold on. No, that's fair. He doesn't have a record
Nas
with Big.
ain't got a record with Big.
But hold on. You want to know why that is though? Because Big saw Nas as a threat. Right.
I guess. I mean, you know.
Okay. No. Let's call a spade a spade.
I don't. You know what? I don't think Big saw Nas as a threat.
Because you don't have. Because no, Mike. There are no Nas Biggie records because you don't put yourself on a song with the one guy who's better than you. All right.
Well, I mean, nah.
Okay.
I think Big understood. Big said himself.
In 94, and 95, yeah.
Big said himself. Hold on, let me
better
finish.
than 97, and that's the only time Big was ever better.
Big said
than Nas.
himself that, you know, at the Source Awards, he believed that Nas should get Lyricist of the Year. That was in 95 for Illmatic. But he felt like he should get Album of the Year for, you know, Ready to Die. Now, at the end of the day, I think Big respected Nas's lyricism, but Big also knew that overall, he was a better songmaker and MC than Nas was at the time. Nas couldn't make One More Chance. He has spoken on those things. Y'all was grimy in the early 90s.
Whoa. I just got you and I got you good.
I'm just saying.
The beautiful thing about this album that he just made is that he is that song maker and that guy that can make records like that. Now look at the record like, hold on. Not One More Chance, but look at a record like All Bad with Anderson .Paak and tell me Nas can make that record in 96 or 97. He can't. So the same thing that you're giving Big credit for is why you're knocking Nas on the back end. And not only is Nas making he's making full fleshed out songs on this album and rhyming his ass off. And you're like, it's all right. And it's like, no, it's pretty great, actually. It's probably the third best album this year.
All right, we got some more comments.
And this is becoming a really good year.
It said, let's not forget that Hov destroyed Mobb Deep. Yes, he did. Look.
I don't even, whoever that is.
I mean, listen, man. I mean, I think it is what it is. I think that the takeover goes understated in that way, too. Prodigy was never the same after the takeover. I mean, rest in peace to Prodigy, but it's the truth. I mean, that the takeover really.
When did Return of the Mac come out?
It was cool. It was like what, 08, 07? Return to the Mac. But it was a return for
when
a reason.
When hold on, when did HNIC come out?
HNIC was before all that.
Was
yeah,
it?
It was. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that and see.
Yeah, it was
might be
before
right.
all that. Because the answer to the takeover was Burn when they came with that album. So that was the follow up.
You know what? I hated that song at the end because he had the weakest verse. It was the first
He
time
was
that
never
I
the
heard.
same. His whole tone changed after the takeover. It is what it is, man.
That was the first time that
after
I
that
heard
Summer
him.
Jam, he was never the same.
I don't know if that's fair, Mike. Return of the Mac is a really dope album. I don't know if that's fair.
No, it's
Think about what
dope.
you're talking
It's
about.
dope. But again, there was a return for a reason.
Oh.
It's a return for a reason. Whenever you got to say return or I'm back, there's a reason.
That's fair.
But let's get back to this Nas album.
Okay.
So what are you rating this album? On a scale from 1 to 5. I mean, is it too soon to do that?
If I was doing it right now, I would give it a 4. Some of the songs, okay, so for me, some of the songs are just good.
What are some of
not
those?
Great. Like Replace Me to me is just good. It's not great. I'm going through them right now. Like Car 85. Car 85 is borderline good to great to me. It's like I really like it. Like that's that adult contemporary hip hop that I'm talking about that he started doing on Life is Good.
Right.
And I like Car 85 because it's a continuation of that, and I can tell he's gotten better at it. And he's in his little like old school storytelling nostalgic mode with Charlie Wilson on the track. That's what I mean. He's thinking about things now differently. And he's not approaching it like he has to outrhyme somebody. He's already done that. He's approaching it like, how can I make this record into a fully crafted song? And that's why I do think this album is dope.
I agree with that.
King's Disease is just solid to me. I don't like the delivery and the pattern at first. It's almost like he picks up steam and then it gets better. And the way he closes it out is really strong. So I like that record a lot, but I don't love it. And he's somebody that usually does pretty stellar intros and beginnings to albums. Like his beginnings to some of his albums song-wise, New York State of Mind, Get Down off Godson, the Stillmatic intro, New York State of Mind Part 2, The Message. Like some of his best records are his first joint. And this King's Disease is a good song, but it's one of the weaker songs on a very strong album. I love Blue Benz. Blue Benz is like that rap shit that I like. And so I like hearing him spit like that. Car 85's dope. Ultra Black's dope. 27 Summers is really dope. That's one of my favorite records on there. I love hearing an artist step outside of their boundaries and sound hot doing it. And that's what he's doing on there. Like that beat's not for him. That and Spicy, those tracks aren't for him. And he pulled those off and executed those off. It says a lot of how he's evolved from that greatest lyricist ever to a really great, well-rounded artist.
I want to speak to that too, because I think that 27 Summers, I think that is the one beat on there that sounds like Hit Boy to me. I think everything else on there sounds like, Hit Boy kind of adjusting to Nas.
Who doesn't do that though? That's what I'm saying.
It's what it is. No, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, that's part of being a producer, right?
Like, it is. Like, okay, so let's go back to the Big and Nas thing right quick. Like, the beats that Primo gave Big are distinctively different because of the voice difference, And so Hit Boy's doing things with Nas that you don't normally hear him doing because he's usually not getting somebody with a voice that dope, Mike. I hate to say it like that.
Well, let me ask the people in the room real quick two things. I'm gonna ask them two things.
Mike, listen to this. Because of the people that Hit Boy works with, and this isn't to discount anybody, he's never worked with somebody as great as Nas for this much time, and he's never worked with somebody vocally like Nas like that. Wouldn't you say that's fair?
I mean, I think that's fair to say.
So there's going to be some adjustment, and so I was expecting there. That's why I was like, this is going to be interesting to see how this turns out, and I was pleasantly surprised at most of the results.
Well, let me ask the people in the room something real quick. What do you think Well, first question is, what do y'all think is the best feature on King's Disease, and what do y'all think is the best produced song on the album King's Disease? What's the best beat on King's Disease? Let me just say it like that. And what's the best featured guest appearance on King's Disease? What do you think?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you now, but yeah, I want people in the chat to chime in on that for the people that are
immediately when you said guest appearances, I thought about Anderson .Paak's performance on All Bad and AZ's verse on Full Circle.
You know what? I'm rolling with Anderson .Paak on. You know what? I might go with Anderson .Paak's song for both. It might be the best featured. It might be the best produced song on there too. Even though I love AZ's verse, but I think Anderson .Paak's feature is different.
I might agree. I might agree with you on both accords on that. I wouldn't necessarily. I can't argue with you on it. Hey, low key though, ASAP's verse on Spicy.
Liked it? I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go back and check it out.
Mike, he said, Tommy by the Belly, sincere with the hype, on a Nas track.
Yeah, that was hot.
Yeah. So Dark Horse is actually Ferg's verse on Spicy. Like when I was like, hold on, I was like, run that back. I was like, Ferg killing shit. I was like, yeah, and I like Ferg already.
I like Ferg too. Let me go to the chat real quick, man. People are saying 4 out of 5 ratings so far. That's Andre Cheshire. We got Robert Stewart saying this is 4.5. So they got them getting this one 4.5. We got one of the dopest intros in like a decade or more. The Firm is his best feature. Blue Benz is the best beat for me, and the best feature is Lil Durk. Anderson .Paak best feature. I Need Time to Marinate on the best beat because it's so cohesive. The Cure is the best beat. Anderson .Paak on the drum is the best beat because it's authentic. I like The Cure a lot. We were talking about that earlier. I was about to say, that's kind of like that Stillmatic Poison joint.
Right, that's what I mean. The Cure and 10 Points and Blue Benz, those are they on some rap shit, Mike. That's Nas right there.
Now, this is one of Nas's best rap performances. I personally wasn't huge on the production because I don't know. You know what? I will say it like this, and I'm not saying that the production is bad because I felt like I was excited after I heard Ultra Black because I like how Ultra Black flowed as a song. I thought that the production was fitting. I think it was a really good song, kind of in a similar way like Daughters was a really good song. Well put hook. Everything came together perfectly, so I like that. And I think that everything around it was cohesive, like one of the people in the chat said, so it flowed. But I didn't think there was a lot of exciting production there, like kind of like what we got on Nasir, even though that album wasn't really received that well. But we still got those moments like, what was the name of that song? Shoot, it was like number 3. You know what I'm talking about? On Nasir.
White Label?
White Label. So it was no real outstanding blaring tracks like that, but it was cohesive in its production. But I think Nas sounded much more comfortable as an MC on this album, and I think that he's a lot more proud of this album. He's out doing press about it. He clearly feels good about this record because he don't have to do that stuff. He don't have to do press at all. Like, we're going to go check out Nas's album anyway.
So, Mike, I mean, you just said a lot, so I'm going to try to unpack all of that.
Go ahead. My bad.
First of all, I just want to say real quick, he has this is what I mean when he said about him, like, looking around and there not being a lot of people where he is hip-hop-wise. He has a freedom that a lot of guys don't have where he can just pull up on anybody and be like, hey, you want to know what? Make my next shit. Yes. Done. And that's one of those things that Prince was fighting for and why he wrote Slave on his face. Like, not just for Nas, just so artists would have that freedom that he has right now to craft things the way that he wants. And so I want to say that. I think as far as the excitement factor goes, Like, think about the fact that he's talking about a track and saying 27 summers.
Right.
Imagine being with somebody that long. We've been listening to Nas for our entire adult lives.
Right.
It's going to be hard for us to be excited about him the way we're going to be excited about Gibbs making the best album of his life this year. Westside Gunn making the best album of his life this year. It's like he already made the best albums of his life 20 years ago.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a fair point.
I mean, so the truth of the matter is that everything since Illmatic hasn't been as exciting, Mike, because that's arguably the best rap album ever. There isn't anything else as exciting, really, outside of a couple of albums that are in the conversation with it.
Andre asked, what are we...
Chronic, Paid in Full.
Right. Andre asking what we are rating the album. You're rating the album a 4, correct?
Right now, where I stand, it's a 4, but every time I listen to it, it gets a little bit better. But I'm biased also, and I want to be more fair-minded about it. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't feel like I was fair-minded about Nasir when I wrote my review, and I don't think that it aged well at all. I think this album is succinctly better than Nasir.
Think this, like I said, I think that I don't want to say that Nasir has better beats than the album. I think that Nasir had some beats on that album that would eat up most of the beats on this album. But as a cohesive thing, this is a much better produced piece of work. And I think Nas is much more focused as a lyricist on this. So I think I agree with you. I think that this album will have more replay value, years from now than Nasir did, because Nasir kind of faded quickly. He came back and shot all the videos. I think that was dope. But yeah, I think these are more songs, and I think he sounds a lot more comfortable on this. But this is one of those albums, I definitely would agree with Andre on that one too. It definitely gets better with more listens, because I think the first time I listen to albums, I'm listening for the production first, unfortunately, sometimes, because that's just what's in your face. Even though I obviously am, listening to Nas as a lyricist as well, but, the beats hit you first. It's like when Stillmatic started, and you get hit with that intro production, it's like, oh, we're here.
And 3.
And I think that's how Jay-Z wins a lot, because Jay-Z hits you with production that is in your face, and he's kind of the backdrop of it, and that's been his MO.
Hey, Mike, when Hangman 3 did that beat for them, that's Hangman 3 from Made Men production team.
Right.
They did that beat on the Stillmatic intro. I was like, that was one of those moments where I heard him like that over that track, and I was like, please work with them some more. Please.
Kendall Jackson says this is easily his best work in 10 years.
Easy. Thank you. Hold on. Okay, so hold on. So we got any more comments? Because I know we need to
go to it. Yeah. I've been reading the comments, man. I got one more. It's Robert Stewart said this album is like eating expensive cheese and drinking fine wine while sitting on the stoop in Queens. Nice review there, Robert Stewart. We got to repeat that.
No, hey, he's on to something. That's it, because it's like, this is what I mean. You're listening to Nas, and it's like he's telling the back in the day stories, but very few guys are talking about like living this life, Mike, that are actually living this life, and he's actually living this life, and you're reading about it in the press, and he's talking about it now really for the first time. Like, and so here we go.
Go for it.
I'm going to tell you where, when I'm ranking his albums, and tell me if I'm wrong, I have Illmatic.
Okay.
I personally think It Was Written is better than the Lost Tapes, but only because I know the Lost Tapes are the original version of I Am, which was better than It Was Written. The original version of I Am is better than It Was Written. So I want people to understand that and put that in context, that it really should have
went. We just got to count albums that came out. We don't want to get confusing. We'll rank them by their release.
Terrible. It's just terrible. Like, it's one of the worst things. Like, that's one of the worst things that ever happened to a rap career, and he still ended up being the best MC ever. But whatever. The Lost Tapes is third, and then I would have Stillmatic fourth. I would have Godson fifth, and after that, I would have I Am sixth. And right now, from where I stand, if I pull up the track listing of I Am, which I know is 16 songs, and pull up the track listing for this album, Mike, I think that this, when it's said and done, is going to have more songs on it that stay with you than I Am does, which is his sixth best album. And so I actually think this is going down as his sixth best album. And as far as lyrical performance, I'm going to put it as his seventh best lyrical performance after I Am, only because Nas's Like is on I Am. And that's literally the only reason that I'm putting it ahead lyrically. Nas's Like is on I Am, and Nas's Like sounds like it could have been on Illmatic.
It does.
Lyrically and beat-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to give it the nod lyrically in that regard. And so in a 13-album catalog, 14 if you count the Damian Marley, Joint Distant Relatives, to have this album be in the middle while this guy is like 45, 46 years old, like, it's really fucking impressive. How about this?
I thought Distant Relatives was brilliant, first of all.
I do.
And
I would put it for this. I would put it right after this.
Now, I will also say, though, if we're talking about...
It doesn't count. Hold on. Does it count? Did Distant Relatives count?
I wouldn't count Distant Relatives. It gets
kind of
weird. I have
it at the bottom of the star.
Yeah.
Right.
It gets kind of weird. I know where I Am... I agree with you on Nas's Like and New York State of Mind Part 2. Those are game-changing situations. But I Am, the release, and we're not talking about the double album and stuff that got cut, it does still have the Dr. Knock boots on it and stuff like that. And this album doesn't really have things like that.
It doesn't have that kissing song, Dr. Knock boot, and the...
You Won't See Me Tonight.
Big Things and You Won't See Me Tonight. Those are 4 records on I Am that are not good at all.
Yeah.
And literally, and it's the greatness of the other records on I Am that actually make that record great. Like Small World is a great record.
Yeah.
Hate Me Now. New York State of Mind Part 2, Nas's Like. So it's like when he hit it out the park on that album, he hit it out the park. But man, when he failed...
You know what? It's his, and I hate to keep bringing up Jay-Z, but these guys are joining at the hip. It's his Volume 1. Volume 1 is so all over the place.
Yes. I Am in Volume 1. Those are very accurate comparisons. I've never thought of that.
It's such a, it's some of his most brilliant work and some of his most terrible work.
Agreed. I told you, Mike, Imaginary Player and Politics as Usual are probably still my favorite Jay songs to this day. Where I'm From is up there too. You're right. Like I Am and Volume 1 are very similar in that way.
Well, I know Politics as Usual is on Reasonable Doubt, but I know what you mean.
No. I mean as far as Imaginary Player. Imaginary
right.
Player. I mean, Mike, I still know the track list in the Volume 1 like off the top of my head. Like I personally like that album because lyrically, it's his best album next to Reasonable Doubt. And it's because of Imaginary Player, Streets is Watching, A Million and One Questions, You Must Love Me, Where I'm From.
If someone asked me what Jay-Z's best verse is, I might say the last verse on Streets is Watching.
Streets is Watching.
That verse is crazy.
It might be, Mike.
Might be his best verse.
What did he say? Public apologies.
Yeah.
To the family that got caught up in
That was the first thing that popped up in my mind, too.
Mike, remember I was telling you when I heard Reasonable Doubt, I was like, yo, everybody's getting indicted. Like, if you hearing what this guy is saying?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Streets is Watching, man. That song in itself honestly kind of revamped the failure of Volume 1. And it inspired them to make that movie.
And keep this in mind, he went platinum on that album. Lyrically, it's his second best album. And a lot of his greatest hits are on that album, and it was considered to be a failure. Things have really changed since 97 now, haven't they? And he came out the same day as Rakim that day, too.
Did he? Oh, wow.
The 18th letter in Volume 1 came out on the same day. I'm ahead, Mike. I remember.
Wow. Yeah, man. All right, so...
I went to my homeboy Gary's house on the west side and played those CDs at his crib in one of those little old school boxes at his crib, at his grandparents' crib off Beatty's Ford.
History, man. Well, all right. Before we wrap it up, man, what were your thoughts on Jay-Z's verse on the Pharrell song, or the Jay-Z and Pharrell song? Period. What are the people thinking about that? What are the people in the chat thinking about the Pharrell and Jay-Z song Entrepreneur? What are your thoughts?
I like the song. The verse is solid. I know he's catching a lot of backlash for the FUBU comment when, we all know Jay done, big up every major white label brand designer, champagne, like all of that. He's done all of that, Mike.
All of it.
But, yeah, and this is what I mean. Like, first of all, Black Twitter is unforgiving and undefeated. And second of all, it's like, this is what I mean. Even when I was doing the Jay Electronica review, it's like, but give them room to grow, though. Like don't hold on to that guy that was rapping in 2000. That guy that was rapping in 2000 is literally a multimedia mogul in 2020, a businessman, a husband, a father. He might be looking at things differently. He might be saying that because he knows he's the guy that might be the most wrong for his lack of public sponsorship of it, so to speak, when he could have it in his prime and his peak.
So did he say that on So Ghetto?
About it.
Did he say on So Ghetto? It was like, they say I'm shallow, I never learned to swim. They put me on the cover because I earned for them. Like, he's always acknowledged the fact that he does have this power to, I think he was saying that Commissioner Stern,
as soon as he do much, watch them turn on him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he knew what, like, I put it this way. I don't buy the growth, let him grow argument with Jay-Z, because Jay-Z's a very smart man. He knows what's going on. He's been knowing what's going on. And
Mike,
you know what I'm saying?
Intelligence, aptitude, and foresight are all great traits to have, but they don't necessarily have anything to do with growth from a conscious level.
I got you.
No, they don't.
I got you.
And what I'm saying is that he is saying things that sound more conscious. I see a growth in his conscience. He's known these things forever. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like Common Sense, but I did 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like Common Sense. So he knows. It's just like this, Mike. It's like, a real criminal knows the difference between slaughter and murder is intent. But when you're in the heat of the moment of a situation and it's going down, you're going to respond, Like, you can know something and it doesn't mean it's going down that way. And so what I'm saying is that I'm seeing somebody that's known something for a long time, but he's actually speaking about knowing it. And it's like, why is he not allowed to say it? And this is coming from a Nas guy. This is coming from somebody who personally, if you're asking me who my 10 greatest MCs are of all time, personally, I'm probably putting him at 6 or 7. And I'm probably one of the few people that know the shit that I know that don't have him definitely in the top 5. And I'm saying that and because I still love him and I know how great he is. I just, it's hard for him to top 5, and Nas, Tupac, and Big all to be in my top 5. I think those guys are better than him. Specifically Nas. And
I remember watching Karl Kani interview. I think Vlad did it, and Karl Kani was talking about his relationship with Tupac. Tupac didn't have any business with Karl Kani, like on paper or anything like that. And he didn't charge Karl Kani anything for doing his spread because he wanted to see a black man's business grow.
To see him win.
He just built like that, Pac, man.
That's what I mean. Like, Pac's in my top 5, Mike. Like, I'm not going to lie. If we're talking about MC, like, no, Pac's not in my top 5. He's not even in my top 10, like, MC-wise. But his songs is so dope.
Yeah.
He's so important. Like, I can't put Jay ahead of somebody that's important like that. I can't put him ahead of Big because Big does the same thing, except for he has a better voice, better delivery, better storyteller. I'm not putting ahead of Nas for a few reasons I've already highlighted. So if without talking about Rakim, he's already at 4. So if I bring Rakim into the conversation, that's 5. If we're talking personal preference, then I think about Scarface and Ghostface. And personal preference, I listen to Scarface as much as I listen to Jay. And Face is from Houston, Jay is from Brooklyn. I'm giving the nod to my Southern roots.
Mellow Austin says, "How is Jay not in your top 5?" I'm with you, Austin. You know, this top 10 is a whole different discussion for a different day.
I'm saying, hold on.
Jay's number.
I'm saying for me. Hold on. I'm saying for me, if we're talking objectively, he's going to make my top 5. We're talking about my shit.
Oh, you're talking about personal. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about on paper.
Objectively, if we're making this list, it's like, yeah, because I'd be crazy to not look at his impact on culture, influence, classic albums, catalog, lyrics, delivery, and say that he's not in the top 5.
He's number
objectively,
1. If we look at all those things.
You can't be Joe Frazier and be number 1, but objectively top 5. But I'm saying personally more like 6 or 7. Personally. And I'm entitled to that.
You're entitled to that. All right, well.
Mike, if he wanted me to feel differently, maybe he should have won the battle that all of you guys who keep putting him at number 1 conveniently forget that he lost. I
don't think one battle makes you not.
Hey, guess how old, hold on, how old was Jay when he made that lackluster 444 album?
444 was what, 2017? So Jay will be 51.
He's 4 years older than Nas.
He was like 47 or something like that.
So this is Nas at 46. Who sounds better? So he sounded better early.
You think I think that's up for a discussion. Because honestly, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. And I said this on the phone. I'm not a huge fan of either of those albums. But I do think that 444 was very well received. Nas just came out today, so I don't know if we can call it, but we'll put that out to the people and see which album people favor at the moment. I know we're in the heat of the moment with Nas's album now, but is King's Disease better than 444? Because 444 was very well received.
It was well.
I'm not the best person to ask for those two albums, really.
I mean, I'm saying that as objectively as I can. It's like I listened to 444 like literally 2 times, and then I couldn't tell you the third time that I listened to it. I've listened to King's Disease 3 times already.
Robert Stewart said his top 5 is Nas, Scarface, Ghostface, Redman, and Biggie. Okay.
See? Redman. Oh, yeah, it's a problem. It's a whole problem.
Okay, well, you know what?
But hold on, Mike. Let me say this, though. I only say this to say, for guys like you that think that Jay is number 1, when I look at Nas make an album like this, I look at the fact that Nas is younger than Jay and literally was on his second album at the age of 22, 23, when Jay is 26, 27, and just getting in and ascending to the heights that Nas has already existed at for some years now. And if you want to say he caught up to him, that's fair, but then he caught up to him and then he still lost. And then if you even want to tell me that after that he was better for some sort of time, I'm trying to tell you, like Nas, the last 5 years has been better than Jay. He was better in the beginning, and it's turning out that he's better in the end.
I think.
And if you look at their catalogs at the same age, when Jay is just ascending, it's like when people are questioning if Nas was done. Like I am. Yeah. I am.
This is what I will say. I will say that Jay was better than Nas in the late 90s. And I think in the 2000s, Jay has been better than Nas. Is it not fair to say Jay's been better than Nas in the 2000s? I mean, we got the Blueprint. Well, actually, the Dynasty came out in 2000. In 2001, we got the Blueprint. Then we got, Blueprint 2, whatever. You got the Black Album. You got American Gangsta in there. We got Blueprint 3. We got 444. I think that Jay has been better than Nas in the 2000s, because in the 2000s with Nas, what we got is Stillmatic, God's Son. Really, Not much after that. Life is good in this. Cause
Hold
Streets
on. So when it's still hold on. So when it's Stillmatic come out?
Stillmatic came out in 2001. And I think if we're talking late 90s terms, we're talking
When the
98 to
guy
99. I mean, Jay got that too. Well, I
I
guess,
mean, I'll give Jay 97 all the way up until the battle. I'll give him everything up to that point. But
but the
that's my whole point,
2000s
Mike.
though.
Mike, okay, so listen to what I'm saying, and here's the point that I'm trying to get across. And I'm only saying this for people that think that Jay is the greatest of all time. He wasn't even good enough early enough to even be around for Nas's run, which is the greatest run ever. He wasn't even nice like that yet. He's not even a part of Nas's greatest run, because Nas's run is from 94 to 96. When did Jay's first album come out? And he's 4 years
96.
older than Nas, and we having this conversation. This is what I'm
We're
saying.
talking
Like,
about a
like,
two-year
say that out
period.
loud. Like, if he was so dope, Mike, he had Kane in his pocket when Kane was the #1 MC in the game, and he was on tour with Kane. If Jay is the greatest MC of all time, why are we not hearing from him until he's 27 years old in 96? Why are we hearing from Nas so much sooner at such a younger age?
Because
It's
Nas-
because he was better. Because he was better.
He got signed earlier. He was better. Nas was better
Mike.
than, honestly, lyrically, Nas was better than Pac, Big, and all of them at that point.
He's better
And
than everybody.
but honestly,
Mike, that's
man,
what I'm saying.
let's
When
be
you
real
give me
though.
Jay,
Reasonable
like,
Doubt's
no,
better than it was written, right? Reasonable Doubt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Reasonable Doubt's a top 10 rap album ever. Maybe top 5. Like, how about this? Personally, Reasonable Doubt's one of my 5 favorite albums, and I like Reasonable Doubt more than I like Ready to Die.
I'm not mad at that. I might agree with that.
I'm a Jay fan. That's what I'm saying. But I just feel like the situation has gotten really, really convoluted where y'all like have this perception where like Jay's better. And I'm like, well, who made the better album? Well, Nas. Who won the battle? Nas. Who has the more epic guest appearance? Nas. Who sounded better earlier? Nas. Who sounds better later? Nas. Why is it Jay?
Jay has the better catalog, man. Album for album.
And so you got one thing. You just gave
That's
me
a
one
big
thing. I
thing.
gave you 5. I gave you 5, and I didn't bring up the fact that Nas is a better lyricist or storyteller. So I just gave you 7. You gave me he has a better catalog.
This is what I will say.
7.
He has the better catalog, album for album. Jay does. Jay is the better live performer. Jay has more versatility as a lyricist. I think that, song for song, Jay, he has him beat there too.
Is
Not
it
to
saying
mention the
song for
hits.
song saying albums?
No, I don't think so. I think there are people who have great catalogs of albums and don't have like the impactful singles either. You know what I'm saying? I think that no disrespect. I think Scarface is one of those people where it's like he has the albums, but if we're talking about impactful individual songs, it's a little different. So
that's why
I think
say
Jay
I'm
has
being
both
objective.
of those.
So that's where I'm being. Hold on, Mike. So that's where I'm being objective and saying if I personally may have Jay at 7, if we're talking objectively, I'm putting him ahead of Scarface and Ghostface.
Well, let's before we go, we got Robert Stewart naming his top 5 Nas albums. He has Stillmatic, Lost Tapes, Godson, Street Disciple, and Untitled. Okay, so put up the top 5
Street
Nas
Disciple is
albums.
underrated.
Put up your top 5 Nas albums against the top 5 Jay albums, and let's see how we fare with that.
Illmatic, It Was Written, Lost Tapes, Stillmatic, Godson.
Godson. Okay, and with Jay, we're gonna go Reasonable Doubt, The Blueprint, The Black Album,
Black Album.
Volume
What are your last
2, huh?
That's where you start losing.
Volume 2 and
Volume
American Gangster.
Stillmatic or Godson. Those aren't better than Stillmatic or Godson.
I think American Gangster is better than Godson.
I don't.
I think
I don't.
that obviously, Illmatic will give that the edge over
Anything on
Reasonable
American
Doubt.
Gangster? Hold on. Is there any record on American Gangster better than Made You Look?
I like the Rock Boys, but no, it's not. But we still got the rest of the album to go. We still got the rest of the album to go. I give you Made You Look. Made You Look's great.
You said 5.
No.
See, here we go. There y'all go again. even if you listen, you just gave Jay catalog. I gave you 7 things, and you mostly talked about his songs and his albums. And I
He's a
just
better
gave
live
you their
performer.
albums top 5, and he can't win that either, Mike. He's just not.
What are
better.
the criteria of the greatest MC? Is it, I think song and catalog or whatever, however you convolute it, has to be there. I think live performance has to be there. I think longevity has to be there. And then the lyricism has to be there.
Okay, so who's better lyrically?
Nas.
Who's a better storyteller?
That's the same shit. It is.
No, it's not. Lyric storytelling is not the same thing.
Okay, Nas is.
Okay, so who has the better catalog?
Jay. Who's the better live performer? Jay.
I'll give you that.
Who's had more longevity? I think we'll say Jay.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He's
Nas
done this
just made-
nonstop.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on. This is where I got you at the end mark. 444 is one of Jay's worst albums. King's Disease is somewhere in the middle. And Jay's older than Nas.
That's not what people say. People hold 444 really high. I think that's where the disconnect is. You think 444 is down here when it was very well received. It was. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. But I'm not going to say it was a dud because it was well received.
What I listened to was down there. That's where it's going to remain. So many of his albums have been elevated that really haven't held up well. Like the fact that Volume 2 is still considered to be one of his 5 best albums is where I feel like I had you, because that album hasn't aged well. And that album
I will give you that. Volume.
That album was full of help, and it hasn't aged well, and that's what you're putting in the top 5. And I'm like, nah, give me Godson and Stillmatic, which don't hardly have any help. Jay has a lot of help with those albums that you're talking about. American Gangster.
I think he doesn't have a lot of help on American Gangster.
He has Wayne, Siegel, Nas.
That's about it.
That sounds like Pharrell, correct?
I mean,
yeah, that sounds
producer,
heavy, Mike.
Come on, man.
Pharrell
produced it,
sounds
man.
Heavy.
What are we talking about? All right, next show, man, we need to do, I don't know who's coming out next week, but what we need to do next show, man, we need to really, I think we could do a top 5. We could do a top 5 or a top 10. What's up?
Hey, you're live. Yeah. We're about to go eat.
But all right, well, yeah, man. Well, it looks like the Nas album, you got it rated a 4. We will see what the legs look like on it, and I think next
we'll see
show,
how.
What's that?
I think even more importantly, like in a year like this, where I feel like it's an above average year, it's not 2018 just quite, because I don't think there's 3 clear cut classic albums.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is the 3rd best album this year so far that I've heard.
Okay. Well, next time we get on, man, we'll talk about possibly maybe a top 5 or a top 10, depending on what music comes out. And we're going to see y'all next time, man.
Yeah, can I leave you with one final thought? Like,
Go ahead.
I always thought, like, I feel like he did what Jadakiss did on Ignatius, except for he did it much, much better, because Nas is better. And I don't mean that as disrespect to Kiss. It's like, oh, he stepped outside of his box and made some really dope shit, except for, like, he did it a little bit better. It's a little bit more well-rounded.
Speaking of Kiss,
a little bit more
and thank you, Davey, the locks are next week. That's right. The locks are dropping next week.
How about this?
I apologize for that.
Look, Griselda and Wu-Tang been posting about the locks dropping next week. That's how you know it's real.
And Benny's on a lock song, right? Benny the Butcher's on a lock song. Somebody else is on there. It got some dope features on it. So we will be talking about the Locks record next week. And I think that's appropriate for a top 5 Dead or Alive show as well.
Absolutely. I think King's Disease is slightly better. Is better than Fly God is an awesome God too, and I love that record. Only Alfredo and Pray for Paris stand out. I would put it. I want to see how it holds up, Mike. I want to do something controversial to end it, but right now I would have it 3rd or 4th. Like, it's with Fly God is an awesome God too. Like at that 3rd or 4th slot after Alfredo and Pray for Paris for me.
And album of the year is still Pray for Paris, correct?
It is. I remember listening to King's Disease the second time and loving it and being like, but it's still not better than Pray for Paris. And this is the guy that I think is the best MC of all time. All right.
All right. Well, on that note, we're out, and we will holler next week when we talk about the Lox album.